So there is a report of the United States Commission on Religious Freedom, USCIRF, and that report essentially points out that India is becoming religiously intolerant and it is a country of particular concern. Let's first know what exactly this report says. It says that the Indian government allowed violence against minorities and their houses of worship. This is a government agency. However, it's an independent agency. Its observations are not binding on the US government. So that's observation number one. It then says that there are people who are engaged in and tolerate hate speeches. USCIRF, and it's important to tell you what this organization is. This is actually a bipartisan government body reporting, and their report is not actually binding on the US government. It also refers to what Amit Shah said, a quote of Amit Shah. It says, the quote says, Amit Shah referred to migrants as termites. The report also says that mob lynchings of persons suspected of cow slaughter or consuming beef is taking place in this country. Now, while this report says what it does, it is very important to also tell you what the Indian government feels of this report. So the Indian government has swiftly responded and they have said that we reject all the observations that have been made on India. The report is biased. These are tendentious comments against India, which is not new, and misrepresentation has reached new levels. So this is what the Indian government has said about this report. Let's also quickly tell you, very quickly, who all India has been compared with. The countries of particular concern. Let's go full frame on this graphic so that you can see what all countries India has been compared with. So we are now, according to this report, at par with Tajikistan, Pakistan, Syria, Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, North Korea, China, Russia, and Vietnam. So we are at par, according to this report, with all these countries. Okay. Rakesh Sinha, he's a BJP MP, he is now with us. Rakesh Sinha, thank you so much for joining us. My first question, what do you make of this report?
Sanket, hello.
Yeah, Professor Sinha, what do you make of this report?
No, I think this report reflects the mindset of United States of America, the people who are still in delusion that they are the master of the world. I don't consider this report to be discussed by the people of India or people of the developing countries, because America is in delusion that it is leading the world, it is the master of the world. Whatever it would speak, whatever it would say, that would be the final word for the world. That is not true. I am reminding the Americans that their president take oath. Their president took oath in past. Trump took oath with 2 Bibles, swearing on 2 Bibles. In India, the people take oath, swearing on the Constitution. That is the difference between the secularism of our country and secularism of United States of America. Second important thing is that I consider this report, Sanket, 1927. Catherine Mayo wrote about India, Mother India. Title is very attractive, but very illusionary description of the country. And Mahatma Gandhi responded that this is a gutter inspector's report. I consider the 6 people who endorsed the report, out of 9, 6 endorsed, 3 have given decisive note. These 6 are pompous hypocrites and delusional fools. They don't understand India. And one of the member, Tanji Dorji, rightly pointed out that he lived in India 30 years and he found the multi-faith and multi-religious people are here. But unfortunately, Sanket, there are people in India, which includes some members of the main opposition parties, who enjoy any report, any statement, any writing which goes against India. They fail to differentiate between the Indian state and the government. You may have a position with the government, that is a domestic affair. But when you are siding with the people outside the country, and you are misrepresenting India by your own statement, by own writing, by your own speeches, either in India or outside the country, naturally the people outside the country who are inimical to India would utilize that.
No,
Second
Professor
thing
Sinha,
which one should note
Professor
that.
Sinha, sorry,
No,
sorry,
yeah, just may
if you
finish
could allow
one
me.
statement.
Professor
One
Sinha,
statement, sir,
more.
one statement.
I'll give you an opportunity. Professor Sinha, my only point over here is, are you saying, see, a foreign entity or a report or an agency writing about India, fair enough, you're right. Who are they to tell us about our problems? We know how to deal with our problems. But are you trying to suggest that there is no problem? That
No,
these statements were not made? That there is no religious intolerance?
No, there is a problem. The problem is everywhere. Problem is everywhere in the world, and we are the people who are idealist in nature. All in the collective conscience of India wants that there should not be any feud in the name of religion, caste, or race. That is
no. Yet, Professor Sinha, many members of the ruling party, the BJP, are often accused of making such statements. For instance,
Sanket,
very recently, you've got BJP MLAs who are up in arms saying that don't buy vegetables from Muslim vegetable vendors.
No,
what do you make of this?
Anywhere in the world, you cannot use exceptional statements. Exceptional action of one group or one person or few people as the action of the 130 crore people, and the person whom you are quoting, the party has taken action. This is the country where religious freedom is at the highest stage. The problem is where problem lies. After Modi ji came in the power, and even before that, Manmohan Singh was in power, almost 13,000 NGOs have been banned because they were taking foreign donations in the name of, most of them taking donations in the name of for rural development and other constructive purposes, but their main job was the conversion. And I'm reminding you, right from 1891 to 1941, the census report by the British authorities on India have mentioned, there is one chapter that is Christian enterprises in India. Means Christian enterprises, they have used this term because conversion was one of the main tasks. They want to continue that. And 1956, Nehru constituted Niyogi Commission. Niyogi Commission gave report against the Christian missionaries. And that time, Nehru had to change his stand.
It's interesting that you're mentioning about conversion and NGOs, yes, the government cracking down on NGOs. Can you explain to us the correlation between this report, yes, and the crackdown on NGOs?
Yes, six out those 6 people who endorsed this report, out of them 4 are connected with the organizations which are evangelical.
Well, that's an allegation.
Job. And
that will qualify as an allegation. You are alleging that, yes, they have foul motives.
What is their objection? Their objection is the banning cow slaughter. This is part of the directive principle of state policy. Now, Mahatma Gandhi was in favor of banning cow slaughter. Second important thing, conversion. In 8 states banned conversion, and most of the states banned conversion during the Congress regime. It was after the post-Niyogi Commission that states started banning conversion. In fact, ideally, we should have a central law against the conversion. This is their weak point, which is disturbing them, and they are taking shelter of the CAA. CAA, Muslims are not included because almost all the countries which are Islamic, not only Islamic majority country, 99% people are of one faith. There the minorities are being tortured, and they have compared India with Pakistan, where every day women are kidnapped, their dignity is attacked, they are being converted. They are being killed.
But then, Rakesh Sinha, my final, I know it's an unfair comparison. Nobody in his right mind will say that India and Pakistan are at the same level. They're not. I'm saying it very openly, right? But do you think that some course correction is required, some introspection is required, that the government has to worry about its international image? Or is that intact?
We should not see India from the perspective of the West. We have absolutely not to appease the...
But then we should not look for their endorsement also.
No, I am coming to that. Because West is saying something, America is saying something. So, if anything wrong in the country, right, since the independence, we have to correct it. Whosoever may be in the government. No, there should be no feud in the name of religion, caste, religion, language. This is our ideal position, not in the constitution, but there is a collective consensus in this country that we should move for idealism. That idealism is a democratic, liberal democracy. And Narendra Modi government endorses this liberal democracy. There is high maximum freedom to press. Okay. Every day people criticize Narendra Modi. Only thing is left that they should reach to his house and start abusing in front of him. That's the only difference. On a screen, hundreds of the people come and criticize Narendra Modi.
All right.
BJP, there's nothing wrong. In democracy, you have right to criticize. And moreover, you know, there are people who are intermingled at the community level. And here, during the corona, we are collective fight against the disease. Some people have done some mischief. What Mohan Bhagwat said, RSS chief, he said, for some people, you cannot blame the community. Our real purpose is that we should be one people, one nation with one constitution and one flag. That is our success.
Okay.
That report has objection on Kashmir, that only Muslim majority state was turned. Right? What is that? We don't believe in any religious majority. We are not a theocratic state, because they people believe in theocracy, directly or indirectly. In their subconscious, there is a theocracy. That's why everything they evaluate in their own perspective, in their own prism. India has to evaluate itself from its own prism. We have a beautiful constitution. We have a beautiful constituent assembly debate. We are ourselves a beautiful people. We want to create right thing at the right time.
All right. Professor Rakesh Sinha, appreciate you joining us and putting forth your views. Nicely made. Thank you so much. That was BJP MP Professor Rakesh Sinha speaking to NDTV. Let me now go across to Congress MP Dr. Shashi Tharoor to understand what is his perspective, what he makes of this report. Dr. Tharoor, thank you so much for joining us right here on NDTV. My first question to you is, what do you make of this report? India has been compared to Syria.
Look, as an Indian, obviously, it makes me a bit ashamed, because I spent an adult lifetime practically speaking around the world, including almost 2 decades, about the religious freedom and diversity in our country and how people of various coexist and build up an idea of India together. And to see it under assault is, to me, rather shame-making. At the same time, I don't think the situation here is as bad, perhaps, as it's seen outside, when naturally only the reporting of these specific unpleasant incidents, which are being promoted by a significant minority of bigots and Hindutvavadis and so on, that's what gets reported abroad. So at the moment when I speak to friends abroad, they are practically speaking about us as if we are living in some sort of 1930s Germany, just before the Jews are about to be sent off to concentration camps. And we know it's not that bad, but we also know from Muslim friends that it's not what it used to be, that they do feel a certain sense of being stigmatized, demonized, stereotyped, discriminated against. And I think that the corrective has to come from the top. I think rather than pointing fingers at a foreign agency that has come to a conclusion, I think the government, starting from the Prime Minister, should take steps to ensure that the reality is different, and then there'll no longer be an excuse to even exaggerate it in a foreign report.
Dr. Tharoor, as part of this report, the many writers, the many commissioners, there's one commissioner who in fact put a dissent note. And according to his dissent note, he said that if the purpose is to get your point across to India, then unfortunately the language that has been used, it will be counterproductive. Would you concur with this assessment?
Well, unfortunately, we all know our own country well enough, Sanket. The immediate reaction will be to be miffed that these people are saying these things, to condemn them for their ignorance, and to take refuge behind the fact that indeed there is a level of exaggeration implicit in such a major censure of our country. But the real answer clearly lies, if there is a small black mark in your country, which is being seen outside as a big black mark, rather than telling them it's not a big black mark, it's only a small black mark, we should be acting to remove the small black mark so there is nothing left to exaggerate. Right now, the fact is there is a black mark in our country that wasn't there before. And the sad thing is it's a conscious result of the ruling party.
Dr. Tharoor, my final question, what do you think should have been India's response? What should we be doing from here on? What do you make of the response as of this moment?
Listen, I'm afraid these very elements that have gone into their report are the very elements that we in the opposition have been rigorously standing up against in the course of the last year. So it's very difficult for me to say these are not valid concerns. These are valid concerns. The conclusion may be overblown at this point, but these are legitimate concerns that any well-wisher of India is bound to have. The fact is that those of us who have really taken satisfaction and pride in our country's long record of the successful management of diversity, we have every reason to be ashamed of some of the appalling things that are being said and done by members of the ruling party. Just yesterday, BJP MLA says don't buy fruit and vegetables from Muslims. We have incidents of Muslims being denied very simple treatment. We have seen pictures from the Delhi riots of police joining people in stoning Muslims and in attacking Muslims. We have seen stories of people being stripped so that they can be physically examined to judge whether they're Muslim or not. These are horrors that we should not have expected in independent India 70 odd years after partition. And yet these have all happened in the last few months. How can we possibly say that all of these are good things? I think that the government needs to do a major course correction. The coronavirus pause, as it were, which has put a halt to much of politics, has given them a golden opportunity to put a brake as well on the very, very dangerous momentum that was being gathered by the forces of intolerance before the virus came down, and to actually say we will not go that path because that's going to destroy us in the world. I mean, I've been speaking, for example, to very senior people in foreign countries, including in very important countries to us like the Gulf. And they are very worried. I mean, they really want and value friendly relations with India, but they don't want us to make it so difficult for them to be friends when they themselves are reading in their media, and their Muslim populations are reading in their media about Islamophobia in India.
All right. Dr. Tharoor, appreciate you joining us and speaking to NDTV. So we had two voices, informed voices representing their respective parties and their respective viewpoints. Professor Rakesh Sinha from the BJP and Dr. Shashi Tharoor from the Congress. You, the viewer, should decide whose argument was convincing. That's a wrap in this edition of Trending Tonight. News continues right here on NDTV. Good night and good night.